Okay, let's start with a puzzle. Imagine a country that has more oil than Saudi Arabia, more than Canada, more than anywhere else on the entire planet. Logically, you'd think they'd be one of the richest nations in the world, right? But they're not. Venezuela's oil industry is, well, it's in ruins. So today, we're going to dig into this paradox. Why are the world's biggest oil reserves just stuck underground?
Yeah, that's really the big question here, isn't it? How can a country sitting on all that natural wealth watch its most important industry just completely fall apart? It just doesn't make sense on the surface. So let's pull back the layers and see what exactly led to this pretty catastrophic situation.
You know, when you ask the experts, the people who are actually on the ground there, what the energy infrastructure is like, their answer is brutally honest. Just not good. Not good. I mean, that's not some complicated technical report, is it? That's a gut reaction. It tells you everything you need to know about a system that's just completely broken. It points to a crisis that's deep, deep down.
Right. So a collapse like this doesn't just happen overnight. This was like a slow-motion train wreck decades in the making. To really get what's happening today, we've got to go back in time. We need to look at those key moments that took Venezuela from being this absolute powerhouse to, well, a cautionary tale.
And man, when you look at the timeline, it is just stark. In 1980, Venezuela was basically swimming in oil money. But then, fast forward to 2007 and something huge happens. The big international players, the ones with the cash and the tech, companies like ConocoPhillips and ExxonMobil, they get pushed out. And now, today, that powerhouse industry is pretty much gone. It's a shadow of its former self.
So, all that history brings us right up to today. And this state of decay we're talking about, it's not just some footnote in a history book. It's a real, tangible thing that affects people every single day.
And the numbers? Wow. The drop in production is just staggering. Venezuela went from being a major player in the region to pumping out only about 800,000 barrels a day. Now, to give you some perspective on that, that's roughly what one small oil tanker can carry. It's a tiny, tiny fraction of what they could be producing.
And then you've got this other huge factor piling on top of all the internal problems: U.S. sanctions. Now, the idea was to cut off the oil money to create some political leverage. But, regardless of the intention, the end result was just one more massive complication for an economy that was already on its knees.
Okay, so let's play a game. Let's say you wanted to fix all this. You wanted to get that oil flowing again. Where would you even begin? Well, the first place you'd have to look is your bank account, and it would need to be a very, very big one.
So what's the price tag just to get started? $10 billion. And listen, that's not to fix the whole thing. Nope, that's just the initial cost to get production up by a pretty modest 500,000 barrels a day. Think of it like a down payment on a much, much bigger problem.
Yeah, that first 10 billion, that's just to slap some patches on the biggest holes in the system. To really, truly rebuild the industry, to get it anywhere close to what it used to be, we're talking billions and billions more. The amount of money needed is it's almost hard to wrap your head around.
But here's the real kicker. Even if you had all that cash, like all the money in the world, it might not even matter. Because the biggest roadblock here isn't the money, it's the politics. And that, right there, is what turns any potential investment into the ultimate gamble.
Just, put yourself in the shoes of a CEO at a big energy company for a second. One U.S. administration might be all for investing in fossil fuels. But then, a few years later, a new one comes in and wants to phase them out entirely. That kind of political whiplash makes it pretty much impossible to do the kind of long-term, multi-billion-dollar planning these projects absolutely need.
And this quote really just nails it. It gets to the very heart of the problem. These companies are just not going to risk billions of dollars on projects that take years, maybe decades to pay off if the political winds could just shift and leave their entire investment high and dry. I mean, policy certainly is everything, and in this situation, there is absolutely zero.
So, where does all this leave Venezuela? Well, it leaves the country at a major crossroads, pretty much stuck in what seems like an impossible situation with no obvious way out.
It's really the perfect storm when you think about it. You've got infrastructure that's completely shot and needs billions just to get started. But then, the political uncertainty, especially around U.S. policy, makes putting that kind of money in way too risky. So what happens? Total deadlock. No big American companies are jumping at the chance to go back in. Chevron's still there, but that's a whole different story. It's because of a very specific long-term deal they've had for ages.
And that's really where we land, because beyond all the talk of oil, sanctions, and politics, at the end of the day, this is a story about a country. It's about its people. The oil, that's just a resource under the ground. The real question, the one that really matters, is this. No matter what happens with the energy markets, what is it going to take for the nation of Venezuela to finally find its way to a brighter, more stable future?